So this is the second session for UniExplore's web, career coaching, and we're talking about how to build a resume that hiring managers love. A lot of you are in the job seeking journey. Whether you are preparing for your career or you're developing your career at the current moment. So resume is the first thing and most important thing to get you noticed by the hiring manager and the employer. So today we have invited Garrett McGilvery to talk to us about how a resume can be created so you can get a best opportunity to be noticed by the hiring manager. Garrett will talk through his experience and his experience as an HR person and also as a hiring manager from the departments. So with no further ado, let's pass it over to Garrett.
Thank you, Brian. Can you hear me, Brian? Just to make sure that my audio is working.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. All right, hello everybody. This is the second webinar in the series of webinars that UniExplore is going to be hosting. That revolves around helping you get a job in Canada. Okay. The first webinar that we did was sort of a general one. We went over a number of topics. This one is going to solely be specializing in the resume itself. It's the first step that everybody's going to be able to take and when they're trying to get a job. And arguably, it could be a very important step that's part of the process, because this is what gets you in the door to allow you to show off your other skills. So a bit about me in terms of resumes. I was a hiring manager at R2. That was a company. We had around 30 or 40 employees. I did exclusively all the hiring for the firm. Saw hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of resumes come through the door. The company itself was a financial services firm. So a lot of the individuals that were coming in were coming out of business school in finance and accounting. But beyond that, I've assisted with the hiring through UniExplore, as well as an array of other companies from media to engineering to healthcare. So to get started, just to give you a bit of an overview, we're going to be talking briefly about sort of some of the key points on how to amplify your resume and how to get noticed by hiring managers. This will approximately be about 15 to 20 minutes. And then we're going to be doing a series of questions that you might have, some that Brian has probably pre-proposed for about 10 minutes. So in total, this will be about 25 to 30-minute webinar, okay? So to start off, one of the key number one things that I always tell everybody that I'm sort of mentoring and trying to get them through sort of that job cycle is to read the job posting. The job posting is arguably the most important thing that you have in front of you when you're looking to create a resume for a particular job. Now, why is that? Because the resume, the job posting itself tells you explicitly what they are looking for. So as you can see on the screen right now, this is a financial analyst position at Sun Life Financial. So Sun Life Financial is a insurance company that does a variety of things that are based in Toronto, Ontario, and they're looking for a financial analyst. So when you go through this job description, you can see exactly what they're looking for. So they're looking for somebody that can analyze information reported by business units, consolidate business unit data, stuff like that. Now, this might not be right in the field of what you're looking for in terms of, you might be an engineer right now looking for engineering jobs, or you might be an architect looking for architecture-based jobs. But all job postings have the same thing. They tell you what their qualifications are and what they're looking for in a candidate. So you have to go through that and find exactly what they're looking for, and you have to be able to demonstrate that on your resume. If they're asking for somebody that has financial analyst skills, make sure to put a point on your resume that demonstrates your financial analytical ability. Now, if you have that skill and you have it demonstratable by experience that you've done in a prior job or a volunteer opportunity, that's where you put it, okay? So if a job posting is telling you that they're looking for somebody that's financially analytical, problem-solving skills, good team communication, those are the things that you want to highlight. You don't want to highlight, say, your healthcare knowledge if you're going to a financial analyst-based position. While you may have done a number of volunteer opportunities or extracurriculars in a variety of different fields, you have to be able to relate it back to this posting. Now, as somebody that's read a large number of resumes, you want to make sure that this is specific and very clear. You almost want to make it like dumbed down so that if somebody's asking for an individual with a financial analyst skill set, sorry, you want to make sure that it's very articulately put out there. You don't want to have them interpret it. You want it to be read as if somebody that's a 5-year-old reading it, they can understand what your financial analytical skills are. Or if it's whether your engineering skills. So if you're looking for problem solving for an engineer, you want to be able to put that down in a 1 and 2 sentence bullet point so it specifically addresses the need of the job posting. Okay, because when somebody's skimming through your resume, they want to make sure that you meet all those qualifications. If you meet all those qualifications, then the likelihood of you being pushed to the second round goes up significantly. Okay. Next on the list, sample resumes. Now, a lot of you might be trying to build a resume from scratch, or a resume from, say, your brother or your sister or your friend, somebody in the industry. But some of those people in the industry may have outdated resumes, or they might not have made the best resume themselves. Now, one of the key advice things that I give to individuals is to just simply Google, using Google or Baidu or whatever search engine that you particularly use, a resume for the exact job position that you're looking for. So if you're looking to be an engineering intern, or if you're really looking to be a financial analyst, as that's a theme that I'm presenting through this, you want to Google that. Look up financial analyst resume. Look up engineering intern resume. Look up architect resume. There will be hundreds, if not thousands, of resumes pre-baked out there that you can use. Now, you don't want to copy this specifically, but this is something that you can use as sort of a base material or a source material, because this is something that you can sort of lay back on, get ideas from, or just see different styles and different things that people have done to their resume that might look good for you. So in the resume that you might see on the screen, they have a qualification summary, which just outlines the general skills and qualities the individual has. Their core competencies are listed in a bullet point format, which is very clear. So as a resume reader is going to go through it, they'll be able to see that this individual has all these particular 9 skills. And if these 9 skills match up with those on the resume, or sorry, on the job posting, then that's very good. That's very clear. The individual will be able to demonstrate that they have the qualifications necessary in order to get that interview. Okay. And then you goes down professional experience. They have it lined up where it's the job post name, or sorry, the position name, the name of the company, and then the date, as well as a brief summary and some bullet point headers for some key information. Now, some of this other stuff I'm going to go through a little later in this webinar, but then it breaks down to sort of educational background at the bottom. Okay. Now, when producing a resume, some of the best things that you can do is get a thesaurus. Now, what a thesaurus is going to help you do is use those power words, use those action words in order to really demonstrate and embolden your resume. Because if you're using basic terms that might not demonstrate specifically how skillful you are in a particular subject, because you have to demonstrate your skill set and your ability to complete a task in a single 1-page document, and that might be hard to do. So you have to make sure that every single word that you use counts. Now, we're going back to my first point. When you want to read that job posting, they often put a bunch of different keywords and action words in there. If you can use those action words and replicate them and put them throughout your resume, that helps them do matching, because the individual who wrote the job posting is often the one that is reading the resumes as well. So they already have those keywords and those power words in mind, so that when you're creating that resume, it matches up to them. Okay. And then that allows them to do better pattern recognition when they're skimming through a resume to be able to see that this individual has those skills, okay? So the power words and the action words have to be used up front, often done at the beginning of a paragraph, but you can layer them out throughout the sentences of the structures demonstrating your job experience and sort of other notations that you have for your particular jobs. Now, this is something that a lot of people have problems with, and it might seem hard to do, but in fact, it shouldn't be. Now, this is quality over quantity. So the number of job resumes that I've seen in my career over and above 2 pages has been extensive. Now, the best thing that I can say is that the resume reader doesn't have the attention span to be able to read your resume if it is in excess of 2+ pages. That resume reader only has a limited, finite attention span, and you want to be able to pack full as much information as you can into the smallest amount of space that you possibly can. So what I recommend to basically everyone that I talk to is that you have a maximum of 1 page. Your resume does not need to be longer than 1 page. You can have a cover letter that is also in a conjunction with your resume to allow you to sort of go a little more in depth with some of your skills and qualifications, but the resume itself has to be a maximum of 1 page. There are individuals that have 30 years, 40 years of experience, and they fit their resume on 1 page. So an individual that is coming out of university, out of their master's program, should not have an excess of 1 page. If there's an individual that has 40 years of experience and they kept it to 1 page, the individual coming right out of school should also keep it to 1 page. Now, this might require you to be a bit creative with some of the stuff that you select on, but remember that you aren't creating a general resume about your life. You're creating a resume for a specific job and a specific posting. So while you might be the all-star swimming athlete of your city or your town, that might not be something that warrants having 3 to 4 lines on in your resume, especially if you're applying for, say, a financial analyst position where it's not related. You want to only include the relevant information that the resume reader needs in order to understand that you are qualified for this job. So you want to be very selective about the information that you tell. If you have a significant project management experience, while the financial analyst position that you're applying for does not require that, then that is information that you cut out, okay? You only include the stuff that you know that the resume reader needs to know. Because remember, they're only going to be reading a number of lines of it, and if they don't feel that you have the skills or qualifications necessary, they're not going to continue reading your resume. You have to be able to entice them so that right off the bat, they see that you have some of the skills and qualifications, and then you have to follow that throughout your resume, okay? You don't want to lose them in certain paragraphs and certain language where it is not relevant to that job posting. So if you're a medical professional looking to transition into finance, you don't want the financial resume reader to get lost into your medical history. You want to just have it exclusively based to the financial analysis and financial analyst based experience. And that doesn't mean that individuals don't have internships at different companies in different fields, but make sure that it all relates back to something to do with financial analytics. So even if you're an intern at an oil and gas company, I'm sure you did some form of analysis or something like that. You can be creative to make sure that it relates back to financial analysis or in some way, okay? Because there are a number of qualifications that the job posting is looking for. So those are the things that you want to be able to hone in on. And they typically only ask for like 4 to 6 different skills. So those are the things that you have to demonstrate through that resume. And by demonstrating it more than 1 page, then you oftentimes have too much information there. You're not concise enough, and the resume reader is going to lose their attention span, not be able to read your resume, and just skip on to the next one where they can just see it in 1 page. So another very important thing, and this is something that I very much so hold near and dear to my heart is editing. If I read a resume and I see spelling mistakes or errors in the formatting, I skip it. Instantly I skip it, because that means that that individual does not have the time, dedication, or ability to proofread something in order to review their own material and make sure that it's accurate. Because if you can't make sure that your resume is accurate and up to date or in line with everything else in terms of formatting, then how could I trust you with a $100 million financial and analytical project? Or how can I trust you to build a bridge for me? Or how to do anything related in healthcare? How could I trust you with those types of projects if you can't even make sure that you have the proper grammar, you have the proper spelling, if you have the proper formatting? So that's why you got to edit, and edit. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to necessarily pay for services, but definitely paying for services definitely help, because then you have professionals on your side that have done this day in and day out, so they know the exact things that you're looking for. But you can also ask your friends. You can also ask your family. Your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, they can all help out. While they may not be necessarily the best, it's definitely better than nothing. So while you're reviewing it yourself multiple times to make sure that your resume is up to snuff, you can have outside third-party assistants with individuals that are going to be able to look through it, make sure that it's good, make sure that all the words are there, make sure that there's some good flow. And you got to make sure that they know exactly what it is you're kind of looking to apply for, whether financial analyst position, engineer, whatever it might be, so that they can be able to tell you if it's in line. So if in fact that you're applying to a financial analyst position and this resume demonstrates that there's a significant good ability in order to get that type of job, then they're there, because you want to have that feedback. Having feedback is one of the most important things that you can do in getting your resume to the utmost A tier level. Okay. Now, bringing it back to sort of the content of the resume itself, a lot of people tend to focus on qualitative over quantitative. Now, qualitative is describing something with words. Now, it's describing how you led a team and you completed a number of projects, which led to great growth in sales. But a better way to say that is you led a team of 3, how many individuals? 3, 4, 5. And how many projects did you complete? 3, 4, 5, 10, 20. And how much did the sales go up? Did it go up by 10%, 20%, 2%, 50%? Utilizing numbers allows you to base your statements and facts. By using numbers, people can quantify and see exactly what it is that you're doing. The more numbers that you use, honestly, I would say is better, because numbers place things into real figures versus just being more general, being more open. Now, that means if you have a particular skill, but you haven't really demonstrated it yet, but you know that you're quite good at it and you haven't completed, 50 projects, something like that, then that's okay. You can still do qualitative based things, but for that experience that you've accrued over the years, or through internships or volunteer experience or clubs at schools, use those numbers, because it's always significantly more powerful when you use a number than when you don't, because that puts something into fact, because that means you did lead a team of 20 people, or you did do a fundraising project where you raised $20,000. Whatever it might be, it just adds to the validity of your resume. Now, style is often very important, because you have to understand that the resume reader is an individual too, and they have to look at a number of resumes per day. And if your resume looks like somebody just made something in a text field and put it on Word and then didn't really give too much effort into it, that's in and of itself a reason why somebody might skip it. Versus if you have a resume that has some good color, some good line formatting, good use of fonts, that's something that's going to catch people's eye. They're going to remember it. And having somebody remember your resume is a very hard thing to do, but it's if you can do it, it's so important for later on, because then they remember what your resume is. They remember more of your skills. They remember more of who you are. Okay. So some jobs might not necessarily mean that you have to do a lot of color. My resume personally never had any color. But if you're in a more creative-based role, whether that's architecture, media, journalism, stuff like that, color is something that's a little more acceptable in those fields versus, say, engineering, business, computer science. Those ones would be more so black and white. But you can play a lot with the fonts. You can play a lot with the styles of the things that you're putting into it, like the types of lines, the types of headers that you have, because that just demonstrates your ability to make something look nice. Because whenever you're presenting a pitch to a client, or you're trying to put a report forward, making it look good makes it better. Because if it looks good, people are going to take it with more credibility. They're going to take more, they're going to trust it more. They're going to have more comfort with whatever it is the content is delivering. So that's why I'm going to say style is very important. It might be hard to do for a lot of you, but it is something that you might want to work on the most. This is something that you can pull by looking at those job postings online, or sorry, those sample resumes online, because a lot of them are formatted in a lot of good ways. You can kind of briefly see a resume that I've tagged here to this slide. There's a lot of different styles. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Just try to find something that fits you, fits your personality, fits your type of motto, and really run with it. Because the more time you spend on it, the more better it looks. Like, the resume reader is going to appreciate that, because it makes it more visually appealing. It's going to make it easier for them to read your stuff. Okay. Now, lastly, I would want to say that you definitely want to be yourself. Now, this while you may have already demonstrated your skills, you might have already shown them that you have good formatting, you have good editing, you got good grammar. You can really demonstrate that you are a very good financial analyst. The next little extra thing is to just really put you over the edge. Is just be yourself. Like, if you happen to be that swim team captain that has won a bronze medal in your city's championship or whatever it is, or if you're a jiu-jitsu master, black belt, something like that, a one-liner on sort of who you are and the type of stuff that you're involved in outside of work often really helps by humanizing you. It makes you more relatable. It makes you more interesting. Because while they might have 5 great financial analysts lined up, the individual who demonstrates that they also have some passions outside of work is often the individual that's going to be, more slotted into that position. Because you might be talking to, when you finally get that interview, the individual that's interviewing you might also be into jiu-jitsu, or they might also be a swimmer in the past when they're in high school and college or something like that. This is just an excellent way for you to just sort of bridge that gap from being formal to informal, and then building that positive personal connection with the interviewer. Okay. The resume reader themselves might also form a bit of a personal connection with you as well, because they might also be into jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, stuff like that. Because when have you ever gone to a group and sort of somebody in that group that you didn't know started talking about something that you're heavily passionate about? You obviously are going to be more connected to that individual because they're share a same common bond that you have. So by being yourself, by putting in that one-liner, that two-liner into your resume, maybe somewhere towards the bottom, after you've demonstrated all your skills and experience, allows you to be more personal. It brings you that little extra touch so that you can then bridge that gap to be from informal to formal and building that relationship with those individuals. Now, we've talked about this a number of times before. We talked about this in the last webinar. We've had a number of successes. I personally mentor, I think, 5 to 8 individuals from Carleton and actually Western University, because I'm a mentor at both of those schools, because I've formed some good bonds with those individuals there. The people that I've sort of helped have gone on to a number of good jobs: EY, Deloitte, TD Bank, Microsoft, and those are all sort of good things. That just ends our present webinar for today. Now I would sort of open it up to Brian and some of the questions. if any of you particularly have any relating to resumes. Okay, let's just hone this down to resumes. If there's something else that's really irking you, something that you want to ask that's career related, but not necessarily resume, you can shoot that out too. But let's just try to focus on resume as it is right now.
Thank you, Garrett. I think that covers a lot of information, and we don't have many questions on the resume part, but we do have a question about related to networking. And I know, in the past few weeks, like a lot of people are asking me, and people on our team, how to set up a coffee chat, how to do networking, because that's basically the most important thing for students, especially international students. So I know we're talking about resume today, but can you just, give some brief, maybe some brief advice or comments on how students or international students should network for their career?
For sure. So if you're an international student, you have one good benefit is that you're part of a school. Okay. You're already part of an existing network. So if you are, let's say I'm going to say Carleton University because I went to Carleton University. They have a real estate club. Let's say they have a real estate club. They have an engineering club. They have an architecture club. They have a journalism club. Get into these clubs. Okay. While if you're outside of university, you can probably still benefit from these clubs at these schools. But if you're part of these clubs, then they know where all the networking events are. Okay. One of the things is just to get out into these events where, let's say, because I did accounting at school, so there's a lot of networking events for Ernst & Young, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte, and Ernst & Young. But they had events all throughout the city, all throughout the year. But it's hard to get into those events if you don't know where they are, obviously. But by joining these circles and by joining these groups, people post out when these events are happening. And by being a part of even the alumni association, like reaching out to your alumni officer if you've already graduated, they'll help you get into those groups because they want you to succeed. Because if you succeed as an alumni from their school, that's good on them. So get into those groups, talk to those people so that you can go do those networking events. Now, outside of the networking events themselves, you want to strategically meet people in the industry. The more people you meet, the better. So if you're looking to go into the real estate industry, it's just reaching out to those people in different areas and different fields. LinkedIn is a very powerful tool that you can use because you can filter people by industry and job title and location. So if you're located in Toronto, Ontario, connect with individuals, just add them on LinkedIn, add people on LinkedIn that are in Toronto that are in the real estate field, and then just ask them for a coffee. Just be like, hey, I know that you're in the industry, you're in Toronto, I just want to see if that you're up for a coffee. You can send them a message on LinkedIn after they've accepted your posting. And honestly, don't feel bad when people say no. It's fine for people to say no, but the majority of people will say yes. So even if you ask 5 people and one person says yes, that's great. Go for that one person and then just go talk to them. You might be bad at the beginning, but you just got to keep doing it, and then you'll get better. It's just, you have to, at the back of your mind, know that you're just trying to make friends. You're just trying to build relationships, make people, your friend, make people like you by just being yourself and just being open and honest. It's like when you're in a school ground trying to meet new people, or at your university and you're talking to people beside you. What do you talk about? You talk about common interests. You talk about stuff in the industry, stuff that you're talking about in your school, in your class, and just keep doing that. Just keep rinse and repeat. The more time that you do it, the better that you're going to get. Brian?
That's okay. So when I thought we were running out of questions, then now we have like tons. So, regarding the time, so we're not going to be able to answer everybody's questions. But we'll start with a very specific question. I think this is a quick one, Garrett. So someone asked about a very specific question that it's not really related to the resume, but it's more kind of in the same process we in an interview. HR sometimes asks, why do you want to quit your last job? Like, how would you actually respond to that kind of question?
So there's a number of reasons. It really is sort of specific to to sort of what your own motivations are, but it's good to be open up front, because like if you're trying to transition from, say, like I moved from being a commercial real estate appraiser to a debt brokerage. Okay. I wanted to move cities. I just wanted to move cities, and I wanted to change functions. I didn't want to be an appraiser anymore. So I was saying I wanted to grow and learn more. So by stipulating that you want to grow and learn more is something that's very admirable. And that's something that nobody's going to second guess. Nobody's going to double count, because it's like, even if you're moving from a financial analyst from one company to another, there's definitely going to be some distinctive differences in those companies. By stipulating that you just want to learn and grow more, that's usually a catch-all that nobody's going to say anything against. So even if you're going from a small size firm to a big firm, or even a big firm to a small firm, stipulating that you just want to grow and learn more basically hits the bucket pretty much every single time. Because if you're going from a big firm to a small firm, you're going to be more entrepreneurial. You're going to be more if you're in a small firm, you're going to have more responsibility, because there's not going to be as many people in that firm. But if you're going from a small firm to a big firm, you're going to learn a lot more focused specialization in terms of whatever your job role or function is. And you're going to be more institutional, because the business is going to be bigger. The business is going to be more formal. And then there's going to be sort of a bigger brand behind it, because the company itself is bigger.
Great, thanks. So you know what, we'll have it's already 9:37, so we'll end at 9:40. So we'll basically have some time for a couple more questions. I see in the chat area we have one question related to is there a website for us to search for job descriptions? So there's tons of websites out there. Indeed.ca. You can just Google job descriptions, or just the interesting job titles. The job titles you're interested in, just Google them. You'll be able to find all these websites. All right, just Google. Don't use Baidu. So then that's the way to do it. And a very specific question that
to add to that one, Brian, I'd just say LinkedIn is also a good tool, because LinkedIn has a lot of good job postings out there as well. A lot of companies are starting to use that one.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I see another question from Tao. I'm giving you another chance to ask a question, because one of my friends' name is Tao too. So Tao asked something about is it important to customize your job your resume? From my experience, I'm going to answer that very quick. It is very important to customize your resume. I think Garrett mentioned that in the previous presentation, that it's important. You don't want to create a resume and send out to 10,000 jobs. So you always want to customize or tailor it based on the job description. So Garrett, do you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, so touching on that, if you're applying to a financial analyst-based position, that's your financial analyst resume, okay? Because there might be different jobs that you're trying to apply for, because there might be, if you're coming out of school and you're looking at a number of different positions, a number of different jobs, custom tailor each one to fit that mold, because you might be looking for junior associates, project management roles, financial analyst roles, something like that, and that's just for finance-based people. For engineers, it would be completely different as well. Same with healthcare. Even within, say, a financial analyst-based job resume, you might want to do some tweaks just based on the posting itself, because one posting is going to be different from another. Because one real estate refinance company might be asking for something completely different from another real estate finance company, even if the job is exactly the same. Because the one company might have more focus on you being a team player, versus, say, the other one is looking for you to be independent and entrepreneurial. So by tweaking it to make sure that you satisfy that you're entrepreneurial and independent, as well as have team player-based abilities, those are those teeny little tweaks that you want to do when applying from one job to another. And unfortunately, it is a lot of work in order to get that done, but that's how you get the interviews. Okay,
so we'll give you a last question, Garrett, and then we'll wrap up. So one of our participants just arrived to Canada. Welcome to Canada, by the way. And she or he has worked for several years, and lacking local experience, a big problem. What can we do with our resume to make the HR department feel that I have the transferable abilities and skills?
So that one's tougher, Because if you have a number of years working in another country, but it's a similar based role, it really depends on the role itself. So, for example, I have an individual who was a senior manager at a bank in India, and then coming here had significant problems getting in any sort of banking field, mainly because she had the problem that she was in a highly regulated field. So the regulations don't transfer very well from going from a foreign bank to a bank here. If you're in computer science, that's not going to be the case. Any type of computer science would probably be fine because if you learn Python and you understand coding languages, you're good. Architecture, stuff like that might be a bit different, but you want to really hone in on the fact that you have the base skill set that the position is looking for. Unfortunately, if you are an individual that has about 10 years of experience, you might be only qualified for sort of jobs that are in this sort of the 6 to 7 years of experience range. There might be a bit of a downgrade, but the benefit is that while you might be taking a bit of a haircut right now, you do have those skills and that experience so that you can potentially level up that much faster. Because once you get your foot in the door, that's what you get to demonstrate those skills, to demonstrate that experience that you have in order to really push those things forward.
Perfect. Okay, so I don't think we have time for other questions, but hopefully that was some good information for everybody. If we haven't got a chance to answer your question, apologize for that, but we don't really have much time now. But the good news is Garrett will be joining our WeChat group in a few days, and both me and Garrett will be spending some time in our WeChat group, occasionally sharing our experience, giving out some advice on specific topics, whether it's setting up a coffee chat, whether it's getting a resume build, whether it's setting up interview. But it's a very short 10-minute sharing session. You've seen one from me. Garrett will be joining the group as well. Okay, this is very important information, so I want to translate that into Chinese as well. I want to make sure you guys all heard it. 非常感谢大家今天参加这个session。我刚刚讲的就是说 Garrett 会被我邀请到我们的这个微信求职群里边。如果你不在群里边的话，可以扫描右下角的这个社区入驻的表格，然后我们会有小助手拉你进群。那么之后的话，我和 Garrett 会分别不定时的在里边去做一些分享，10分钟的分享，非常简短，但是是比较针对性的一些 subjects， 比如说set up 一个 coffee chat， 或者说是关于简历，或者关于 network， 或者说是关于一些interview skills， 那么希望大家能够扫描二维码，然后进入到我们的这个求职群。如果你不知道怎么进入可以去联系 UniExplore 小助手然后他的这个微信号是 UniExplore 01那今天的话我们就先这样。Okay，thank you everybody. Merry Christmas. Hey, bye guys.